On today's episode, I'm going to give you 5 quick tips on how to photograph fireworks. Hello, my friends. My name is Tim Little. I am a nighttime landscape artist living on Cape Cod on the east coast of Massachusetts, and this is Cape Cod After Dark, a web series devoted to helping you find fantastic places on the Cape to visit, as illustrated through some of the photographs that I've captured there. Happy 4th of July weekend. I hope you have a great one in whatever form that takes shape into, whether that's barbecuing or taking a long drive somewheres or just relaxing on the back deck. I hope it is absolutely fantastic for you. And hopefully you'll find this video helpful if you decide to photograph some fireworks. Now, yeah, maybe your town is not having them. Maybe they have postponed, or maybe you have a neighbor that's going to have fireworks across the street. Who knows? But by the end of this video, you're going to be able to go out with your DSLR and take some great photos, set up really quick, and be happy with what you get. I'm going to tell you how I shoot fireworks and how I shot a lot of the images that you just saw in that slideshow. All right, so tip number 1 is you're going to need a tripod. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be one of those like Gorilla Pods, the small ones, or a tabletop tripod. Ideally, a normal size tripod would be good if you're going to go out into a woodsy or sandy environment like a beach. But something that's going to help you keep your camera absolutely still, because we're going to be doing some longer exposure work. Not incredibly long, but longer than you're going to be able to reasonably hold on to your camera and remain completely still and get away with. Now, I know some of you right now are out there saying, well, don't I have a cell phone that has like a fireworks app or some sort of fireworks setting on the camera? And you do. And what that's really meant for is a last resort quick shot. It's going to look great on a super small screen. It's not going to be a high quality image. You're not going to be able to really enlarge it. You're not going to be able to print it. It's just going to be something that you're going to be able to put on Instagram and everybody's going to look at on their tiny phone screen. And that's going to be the end of it. So if you have a DSLR, that's definitely going to be the way that you want to go. A DSLR and a nice tripod and your kit lens is totally fine. Tip number 2, clean your lens. Make sure that that thing is completely spotless. No dust, no haze, nothing. If ever there was an important time to make sure that you got that glass clean, now is that time. And a lot of it has to do with ground-based light sources. Anytime you're pointing your camera at a light source, and in this case, it's going to be the fireworks, you're going to see all the little imperfections in that dirty lens. So make sure that it is clean. If you leave any dust or haze in there, it will be amplified and magnified by the fireworks. I have it in many of my own shots. Now, it can be tough because you may be in a dusty, dirty environment. So bring a really soft, nice lens cloth with you and expect to keep using it throughout your shoot. This is especially important on really humid nights when there's a higher dew point and you're having the fireworks start and your lens is starting to fog over. You're going to have to keep wiping it down, potentially. In drier environments, not a big deal. Again, keep the lens clean, bring a lens cloth. Tip number 3, a great foreground. The fireworks are just part of your composition and they're part of the subject. They're like the icing on the cake on an otherwise good composition. Don't make the mistake of just pointing your camera straight up at the sky and getting fireworks bursts, because although in some cases you might catch something sort of interesting in how they explode, you're missing out on everything else going on. Your photograph is to tell a story, right? So where were those fireworks happening? How did the colors from those fireworks illuminate the foreground? Were there people around enjoying it? Tell the story through the foreground, and then let the fireworks do all the lighting for you. Tip number 4, and this is the big one. It is, of course, the settings. You need the right settings to get the right photographs. The reason I chose f13 was because I want to make sure that the light sources I'm looking at, so in this case, the fireworks, are a little bit squeezed down. The wider the aperture, so like when we do astrophotography and we're doing f2.8, we're not pointed at any light sources, but if you were, they would look blown out. That's what happens when you have a wide aperture and you're doing landscape photography and you have a light source off in the distance. And the more you squeeze the aperture down by raising that number value, f8, f11, f13, the more concise, the more constricted that light's going to look. and it works really well for fireworks. F13 is about as high as you'd want to go. Keep in mind, if you go higher than that, you're restricting too much light from coming in. And that could affect how your foreground is illuminated. You might not be able to get enough good light on your foreground. And also, you might lose some degree of the detail in the fireworks, or maybe some of the trails coming up from the rockets that are going to eventually turn into the blooms. So just keep that in mind. Start at F13 and see how it goes. ISO 320 is a great place to start for this type of photography because it means a cleaner image. You're shooting at a lower ISO by default. It's a cleaner image. 320 is just enough to be able to capture some of the less lit areas. So let's say your foreground or wherever the firework light might be splashing onto on the ground-based subjects, but not so much that you're going to start to see grain. That's what you want to avoid. Plus, if you shoot higher ISO settings, you might be getting more light, but in effect what you're doing is you're causing your sensor to sort of overload on the light side. And what that means is you really inhibit its ability to get rich color. So the reds and the blues and the greens and oranges and the yellows and all those really nice, rich firework colors that you're seeing with your own eye will get washed away at higher ISOs. Now, newer camera sensors are a lot more forgiving than they used to be. So if you underexpose an image a little bit because of a lower ISO, you can always give it a little bit of boost in post-production. But it is a little bit harder to recover the colors if you shoot at a higher ISO and you need to dim it down a little bit. So start at 320, tweak a little bit in either direction to your comfort level and taste, but don't go too far in either direction and you're going to be in good shape. As far as time goes, I use 8 seconds. I just find that I like the way the firework bloom looks at that time. Generally speaking, I think most people would be good between 6 and 8 seconds. Just keep this in mind. The longer you go, the longer the bloom will look, and that's totally fine. But what you do risk having happen is another firework explodes and your whole shot gets overexposed because now you've let too much light in. And if you go too short, you might not get enough light in the foreground. So start between 6 and 8 seconds. Again, 8 seconds is my personal preference, and go from there and see if you like how the fireworks look. Tweak it a second or two in either direction. If it's a really active fireworks show, you may have to dial it down a little bit. If it's a slower show and not the finale part, you might be able to go a little bit longer. That said, when you do get to the finale, you're probably going to want to dial it down to 3 or 4 seconds because there's going to be so much going on. There's going to be so many fireworks happening that if you leave it at the 8 seconds, it's going to look like a nuclear flash bomb going off. So just keep it shorter in that case. You'll have plenty of light for your foreground and you're not going to overexpose the sky. Finales are hard to shoot. They are really hard to shoot because, again, you have so much going on. One of the fireworks will look really good. A bunch of other ones will look overexposed. That's just how it is, unfortunately. So don't beat yourself up too much if you can't get the finale because it's a super challenging environment. The best time to get good fireworks is leading up to the finale during the regular part of the show. Tip number 5, and this one is super important. Bring a shutter release cable. You don't want to be touching the camera while you're trying to take photographs, long exposure specifically, of these light sources because any camera shake is going to blur your foreground. It's going to make your light sources look streaky or fuzzy. You don't want to touch the camera at any point. So make sure you bring that shutter release cable. But there's another reason, and this is the most important part of all of it. So if you don't remember anything else, just keep this thing in mind. When you go to a fireworks show, you go there to enjoy it, right? The biggest mistake that I see photographers make is putting a camera between themselves and the event. They get so tied up with how the image is going to look and tweaking everything and focusing on the camera, they miss the show. And I was guilty of that for a long, long time. I was so busy tinkering with my camera that I was always missing the thing in front of me. And yeah, I could relive the event through my photographs, but it's not the same. The whole point in going out and seeing these things is to enjoy that experience. So if you bring your shutter release cable and you get one of those fancy ones, an intervalometer that you can program, you can tell it, just keep taking 8-second exposures or 6 seconds or wherever you decide to land. Just let it run and then just walk away or stand to the side and let it do its thing. And then you enjoy the fireworks. And when you're done, you have maybe 100 images that you can go through when you get home. And I will tell you that you will have a lot of really fantastic images. And it's kind of exciting to go home and figure out what you have. But the point is that you'll have that memory, but you'll also have this memory of being able to see things with your own eyes. All right, so get out there and enjoy the fireworks as soon as you are able to do so. Get some fantastic pictures. Don't forget to enjoy them with your own eyes. And I hope you have a safe, healthy, and happy 4th of July weekend. And I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Hey, if you like this video, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell to be notified of future content. Thanks for watching.